Writing a full-blown, cited, Wikipedia-style article from scratch, that's kind of like the ultimate test for an AI, isn't it? It's not just about generating text. It's about deep research, understanding, and putting it all together. Well, a team at Stanford has built a system called Storm to do exactly that. Today, we're going to pop the hood and see how this incredible LLM-powered engine automates the entire research pipeline.
So, here's the plan. We'll kick things off by really digging into the core problem Storm was designed to solve. Then, we'll get right inside the engine, and you'll want to pay close attention to how it learns to ask really smart questions. After that, we'll look at its evolution, CoStorm, which brings a human into the mix. We'll even see how the code works, and then we'll wrap it all up by looking at what this means for the future of curating knowledge.
All right, so what is the big challenge here? We're not just talking about getting an AI to write a quick paragraph. The goal is to produce a really long, deeply researched article, complete with citations. Basically, to create a whole Wikipedia page completely on its own.
And let's be real, this is a massive undertaking. An AI can't just write. It has to act like a real researcher. That means finding good sources, figuring out what to do with conflicting information, and then structuring it all into a story that actually makes sense. It's a huge, huge task.
And this is where Stanford's Storm system comes in. It's a really significant step toward answering yes to that question. It's built from the ground up to use large language models to handle the entire knowledge curation pipeline, from that very first search query all the way to the final cited article.
So how in the world does it handle all that complexity? Well, the secret is a really smart architectural choice. They break the problem down. Instead of one giant messy process, Storm splits everything into two clean, distinct stages.
First up is the pre-writing stage. This is where all the hard work of research happens. The system is out there, scouring the internet, grabbing sources, and organizing all of that information into a really detailed outline. And only then, once all that prep work is done, does it move on to stage 2, the writing. It takes that structured outline, uses the references it found, and generates the full article, making sure everything is properly cited.
You see, separating these two things is absolutely critical. The real magic here isn't just the final writing part, it's automating the research process itself. But this brings up a massive challenge. Great research comes from asking great questions. So how do you teach an AI to do that?
And this, right here, is the secret sauce of Storm. This is the core innovation. The system has this really sophisticated way of generating questions, and that's the engine that drives the entire research phase.
Now, what's fascinating is that the most obvious approach completely fails. If you just tell an LLM, hey, ask some good questions about quantum computing, the questions you get back are, okay, but they're usually generic and pretty shallow. They just don't have the depth you need to write a truly comprehensive article.
Storm's approach is so much smarter. First, it uses something called perspective-guided question asking. It actually looks at existing articles on similar topics to figure out the common themes and different points of view it needs to cover. But second, and this is the really clever bit, it simulates a conversation between a writer and a topic expert. This back and forth lets the AI ground its questions in what it's actually finding in the source material and ask smart follow-ups, just like a human researcher does as they learn more.
But the story doesn't stop there. The next step in this project is CoStorm, which kind of acknowledges that, hey, maybe full automation isn't always the answer. Sometimes what you really want is powerful human-AI collaboration. So CoStorm brings in what they call a collaborative discourse protocol. Just think of it as a set of rules for a highly productive meeting. It defines clear roles for the AI agents and for the human user, which keeps the conversation focused and turns the whole thing into a real team effort.
And in this meeting, you've got a few key players. You have the LLM experts, which are kind of like the original Storm agents, finding info and putting it together. Then you have a moderator agent. And its job is to keep things interesting by asking tough questions based on sources that haven't been touched yet. And of course, there's you, the human user. You can just watch this expert discussion happen, or you can jump in and steer the conversation wherever you want it to go.
To manage all this back and forth, CoStorm visualizes the entire research process as a dynamic mind map. This is brilliant because it creates a shared screen, a shared mental space for both you and the AI. For the human, this is a game changer. It makes it so much easier to keep track of a really long and complex research session without getting totally overwhelmed.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this all look like when you actually want to use it? Let's dive into the code and see how a developer would put this system into action. The entire system is built using DSPy, which is a really cool Python framework for working with LLMs. And building it this way is key because it makes the whole thing super modular. And that means you don't have to use your most powerful and most expensive language model for every single little task.
And this slide shows you exactly what I mean. For things like the conversation simulation, which needs to be fast and happen over and over, you can use a quicker, cheaper model like GPT 3.5-Turbo. But for that final, crucial step of actually writing the cited article, where you need maximum brain power, the system can switch over to a heavy hitter like GPT 4o. This lets you perfectly balance your cost and performance. And look at how clean the implementation is. A developer just creates a StormWiki runner object, passes in their configs, and then calls .run. The really cool part are these little Boolean flags, do research and do generate article. They give you total control over the pipeline. You could, for example, just run the research stage to get a great outline and then write the article yourself.
All right, let's bring it all home. Let's wrap up with the key technical insights and think about what this all means for the future of how we gather and organize knowledge.
So, to recap the really big ideas here. First, breaking down a huge problem into smaller, manageable stages. Second, solving the research problem by simulating expert conversations, not just simple prompting. Third, using a modular design so you can optimize for cost and performance. And finally, with CoStorm, creating a structured way for humans and AI to be true partners in the process.
Now, we have to be realistic about where this technology is right now. As the creators themselves say, it's not spitting out articles that are ready to be published tomorrow. But it's already proven to be an incredibly powerful tool for experts, like experienced Wikipedia editors, who are using it to supercharge their early research and outlining work.
And this all leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. As these AI systems get better and better, becoming expert researchers in their own right, what does our role become? Are we the ones directing the research? Are we the final editors who give it that human polish? Or does our collaboration with AI evolve into something totally new, something we can't even imagine yet?